Good morning, all of you. Today we are going to be see about the UDF, user-defined functions in Apache Hive, how we are going to use. So we already discussed about what is UDF, user-defined functions. So in big Latin we are discussed about this UDF also. So how we are going to be use these user-defined functions and what is the user and what are the various types of user-defined functions are there here Apache Hive that we will discuss today. By this, we can end the Apache Hive. So, so what is user-defined function? Generally, what is the meaning called user-defined function? Can anyone? What is the meaning called user-defined function? User-defined function. It is called user-defined function. See that the new EDF classes need to inherited from the some package we are mentioning org.apache.hadoop.hive.fuel.exe UDF classes. All UDF classes are required. So again, user defined means in order to create our own function, we are going to be use this predefined package over there. Then UDF classes are required to implement one or more methods named evaluate which can be called by I. So the following are the examples of the classes. So public int evaluate of some parameter we are going to be passed, a single parameter that is integer parameter we are passed. Or we are may evaluate by using integer and double value, two different parameters. And other we have some string parameters. We can use the string in between. We may use some integer value. So have you understand what is the class? How function? Sorry, function. How we are mentioned. So this is without parameters. We are directly defining a function. So how we are going to be called. And here we are going to be called as an integer that we are going to be passed as. So I think you for this we have remembered the concept of classifications of what are the various classifications of functions. Have you remember functions with various types? So general types and we have categories of functions also. So general type means user defined, predefined type, and categories of functions. Have you remember? So that is with return type with value, without return type without value, with return type without value. So that such type of parameters with parameter without parameter. So something is there. No? So the same concept here. So first one is without parameter. The second one is with one parameter. Here the two parameters. And here with the string as a parameter. So evaluate should be never to be avoid method. So it is not a void method. So what is the meaning called void? Void where we are going to be use a void. Void should not return any value. So such cases we are not returning any value. So we have never to be a void method. However, it is called at least it is called a null value. If so, if nothing is read from the database, it should simply returns the null value. So that's finally here these user-defined functions what we are going to mention that is evaluate is not going to be a void. So the evaluate method is not defined by an interface since it is makes the arbitrary number of arguments of arbitrary types. So that is any different types. Arbitrary means complex types we can use. See here, one is integer, another one is double we are using, and the last one we are using a string and integer in a different types. So arbitrary types, and it returns the value of arbitrary types itself. So Hive introspects the UD here to find the evaluate method that matches with the Hive functions that was invoked. So it should be matched with the queries, and we are going to be evaluate by easily by matching. Definitely, I think these method should matches means what is the meaning of means. For example, if I am going to be mentioned a function For example, same with a different type of parameter, int a comma float b something double c, if I mention in the bracket like this. So if I am going to be declare, so if I want to use as same thing as to, one second, hello. Okay, so if I'm going to be pass the things, for example, different types of parameters, I think before going to be this, we need to know about what is the prototype, function prototypes, no? So for example, if I am going to be write as the int a in between brackets, what is the meaning? So I'm going to be passed as a parameter as a int. Have you remember the actual parameters and formal parameters? You know the concept, then we can understand the concept of these matches. Do you know what is the concept of actual parameters and formal parameters? Can anyone? By that we can explain. 66, 55. Right. What is the concept of actual parameters and formal parameters? Where we studied in the function prototypes. Can anyone? Hello.
Sir.
Yes. Who is that? Anibabu, Cheppuga.
సరే యాక్చువల్ పారామీటర్స్ అంటే ఇక ఫంక్షన్ దగ్గర అంటే డిఫైన్ చేస్తాం సార్ ఫంక్షన్ దాన్ని మనం చేంజ్ చేయలేము సార్. ఫార్మల్ పారామీటర్స్ ఫంక్షన్ కాల్ లో యూస్ చేస్తాం సార్.
అదే ఫంక్షన్ ప్రోటోటైప్స్ అంటే అవే 3: ఫంక్షన్ డెఫినిషన్, ఫంక్షన్ డిక్లరేషన్, ఫంక్షన్ కాల్స్. ఈ మూడిట్లే ఫంక్షన్ ప్రోటోటైప్స్ అంటారు. ఈ ప్రోటోటైప్ చేసేటప్పుడు ఏంటంటే మనం ఫంక్షన్ ని డిఫైన్ చేసేటప్పుడే మనం చెప్తాం అన్నమాట, వాట్ టైప్ ఆఫ్ పారామీటర్స్ వీఆర్ గోయింగ్ టు బి వర్క్ ఆన్ దట్ పర్టికులర్ ఫంక్షన్, what parameters we are going to be work on that particular function. So that parameters we are going to be used when, for example, simple, when we are going to be operate, when we are going to be call that parameters, that parameters known as the actual parameters. Which parameters we are going to be used in a declaration, so the function declaration time we are going to use, that is a formal parameters. Which parameters we are going to be work on particular function call, so that is known as a actual and parameters. So I will tell you one simple, one second. For example, you know what, how to, for example, if I write a function in a program, how do you find that that is a function call or function definition or function declaration? How you can identify that? How we can identify that? For example, if I write int a, so I already gave this declaration how to identify. So if I write this is a is as a variable, if I said, so if the same thing, if I am write int, so a of, if I am going to be write like this, what is the meaning of this one? A is a function here. Okay, so now I already said that function prototypes, 3 types of function declaration, 3 types of mention function in the program, that is the definition, declaration and call. Now tell me what is this? This line is whether we can call a function call or function declaration or function definition. Again, I will give one more clear idea about. Sometimes function declaration and definition may be at once. Okay, sir, what else? So how it will be? So that is without any parameters. I am not mentioning any parameters here. So this is maybe a function declaration or what it is?
Definition, sir.
Definition. So if I am going to be write a definition should not be end with the colon. So we should not call it. So declaration మాత్రమే నేను చెప్పింది ఏంటంటే డిక్లరేషన్ డెఫినేషన్ ఒకేసారి చేయొచ్చు, విడివిడిగా చేయనక్కర్లేదు అని కూడా చెప్పాను. సో ఇలాగ కానీ కోలన్ ఉందంటే డెఫినెట్లీ ఇట్ ఈస్ ఓన్లీ ఏ డెఫినేషన్, డిక్లరేషన్ ఉంది, ఇట్ ఈస్ నాట్ ఏ డెఫినేషన్. డెఫినేషన్ అంటే ఏంటి? ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ ఏ ఇలా బ్రాకెట్ ఓపెన్ చేసి మనకి బ్రేసెస్ గాని ఓపెన్ చేసి క్లోజ్ చేసామంటే దీస్ ఐఎమ్ గోయింగ్ టు బి రైట్ ఏ డెఫినేషన్ హియర్. ఓకే, సో ఏ ఆఫ్ అని ఇలాగా డైరెక్ట్ గా రాసి సెమీకోలన్ పెట్టినా కూడా దిస్ ఈజ్ నోన్ యాజ్ కాల్ అని కూడా అనొచ్చు. సో డైరెక్ట్ గా ఏ ఫంక్షన్ ని మనం కాల్ చేస్తున్నాం అని కూడా అనొచ్చు. సో ఏంటి మ్యాచెస్ అంటే ఏంటంటే ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ ఇఫ్ ఐఎమ్ గోయింగ్ టు బి రైట్ ఇట్ ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ ఏ ఆఫ్ ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ ఇంట్ ఏ కామా float b అని రాసాను. సో ఐఎమ్ గోయింగ్ టు బి క్లోజ్ ఇట్ హియర్. క్లోజ్ చేశానంటే డెఫినెట్లీ ఇట్ ఈస్ ఏ ఫంక్షన్ డిక్లరేషన్ కన్ఫర్మ్ చేస్తున్నాను. ఇప్పుడు ఫంక్షన్ డిక్లరేషన్ ఇలా కన్ఫర్మ్ చేశానంటే somewhere I am going to be write a definition for this. So definition రాసాను. Somewhere I am going to be call this function. For example, a of for example 2 comma 3.5 and 3.5. What is the meaning here? 2 is an integer. That is a takes as a 2 and b takes as a 3.5. So this should be matches. This type of parameters should be match always. So when the particular hive function should be invoked means it's nothing but it is going to be called. When we are going to be called, that parameters what we mentioned inside the brackets, that should be matched. Okay, so if at all we have mentioned here as a 3 also, when it is going to be considered as 3.0. But it is numbers, it is okay, no problem. But if you mention for example int a and for example strb, if I mention like this, why I am mentioning brackets strb? Can anyone? strb of open close bracket I have mentioned. Why it is? Because string is a group of characters. Definitely you have to mention. We have to define like an array type. So that's fine. So if I am going to be mentioned like this, then it should be matched here in a proper way. Then only that function which we are writing, that should be invoked properly. If not, it is not going to be invoked. Okay. So I hope everyone understand what is this function invoking. Okay. So what are the types of one second, I have one more slide. So these are the types of UDF. There are 3 types of UDF in Hive: regular UDF, UDF and UDF. So we have 3 types. So the UDF is operates a single row and produce a single row as its output. User defined function, user defined and maximum count, how we are going to do. There is 3 types of user defined functions. So one, we can operate only a single column. For example, this is used for testing purpose also. We can most of functions such mathematical functions and string functions are the same type. And UDAF is works on multiple inputs rows and create a single output row. So we are going to be taking multiple rows and we can take as a single row. So where we have an aggregative function which includes the count and max. So we can find the count and maximum from the all rows. So, and this one is operated as a single row and produce a multiple rows of tables as an output. Single row and it produces as multiple. So how it will be a single row with a multiple rows of output? Single row, for example, the row which mentioned, for example, one data is mentioned. For the data, we have a different specification. So how we were produce the data? For a single row, we have multiple rows of inputs with it. So multiple row, so output it generated a single one. So it is the reverse process. So how it will be simple means, for example, we are considering a one particular row in an Excel sheet. So how, what is the details and how, what is it produced and what is the total of that particular row, all those things. For example, one single student information we are going to be counted in a particular row itself. For example, if I want, yesterday, if you remember that one, so I calculated for overall how many persons are without backlog. So if I consider one row that details about a particular person, what is his first sem and second sem and third sem GPA, finally I'm going to be count it in a one row itself. If I want to calculate the overall things, that means overall, for example, out of these 94 members, how I am going to be find out the overall. So the for that we are going to be use UDA. So it is a multiple input rows and it creates an one single output row. So where we are going to be, what I did, so I find some aggregations, I applied as aggregate function, some count functions I am going to use. So total how many counts are there? So if you remember the table is then user defined functions. Example, so there is a simple Java code. So util.date and so we already said that there is functions under the package of org.apache.hadoop.hive.ql.exec So this is the package where we can create our user defined functions. We three types of user defined functions, and we have a public class, and it is extended from UDF. We are going to be mention the definition of UDF function here, and where text is equal to null and it returns null. Long timestamp, some program, Java program, how it will be. Okay. So another example. So please be remember that all these UDF functions are under the package org.apache.hadoop.hive.ql and exe. ud. So where we are going to be, these are the some the examples of user defined functions. So Hive supports, we already know that here again, Hive supports the Java primitives such as UDFs and a few other data types like Java util list and util.maps also. So what is this we can call list and maps, what we are going to be called? Supports Java supports the primitive data types, and also we can use a complex data types also it supports. So the simple small int, big int and double cap, big double, all those things, tiny int, we add that. So later on we have arrays and maps and this list. So these also it's going to be supported. So these types are data type we are going to be called as a complex data types. That also it will be. So that the signature like public string evaluate, string str could works equally well. However, by using a text, we can take an advantage of object reuse, which can be bearing efficiently saving, and so it is prepared in a template. So while we are going to consider a primitive data and the complex data, where what is the advantage take over the object reuse, we can take. So how we are going to be used. So to use the Hive UDF in Hive, we need a package. So the package how we are going to be. So for example, see this. This is the one system Linux system terminal. If you open it, will start. So once we are going to be start with Hive, we can click. It is going to show some history, and we are going to be use the Hive add jar file. So Unix time dot up to date dot jar file I am going to be added. So added to jar to class path and added resources. So this is in a command line how we are going to be execute your files. Okay. So Hive test it. See that now we can confirm that a list of jar commands in Hive. So these are the jar files. List the jars. If I mention the list, so simple how we are going to be using terminal ls. What are the total files are there? So if you give, for example, if you doing Java program, if you give ls, all the object files and class files and .java files, all those files which it shows there. If you want to specify a particular similar type, then list jars. So we have what are the jar files are in that particular home folder. It is showing this. So that is Unix time to date. So that is the file we are added now. So Unix time to date dot jar. So that will follow. So we can confirm that the list of jar command to file. So the class path to final steps to register your user defined function. So create temporary function my data as a Unix data dot. Then okay, so how much time taken? Now we can register uh, our own function, user defined function to the advanced. Okay, so how to create a user defined function? So have remember the same thing. What is how to create an mathematics, mathematics matrix operations? Have you created, anyone created that user defined function? That is how to take rows and columns in a matrix. So we are going to be write both the definition, declaration, all those things. Later on, we can create a header file and we can use it later on. Do you know how to create an header file? Do you know how to create an header file? So we are going to be save as .h. Then it is going to be a header file declaration. So for that, how to define? So there we are not going to be write anything. We are simply writing if the parameters which we are passing to particular header file, we are going to be create an header file. In that header file, we can add all these functions. User defined function. If you call that function, then automatically it is going to be used as string. So wait 1 second, I will show you. Have an example, I think so. So I will show you how to create an header file. So if I have, I will show you. So, sorry, I created in lab itself. I don't have any. So if we create a header file name, and in that we can write only the function definitions. Function definitions means, so if I call a function with a parameter, so what operation we have to perform on that? Then automatically it is transformed to our original program. So in order to mention that header file, we need to mention. So if whenever I am going to be use this command Unix time to date, so if I use this as a user defined function, if I am using, then automatically that function I can use it later. So series here. So total map reduce job and launching job 1 to 1 of the number of reduced files. So in this file, we can see that starting job, some file I'm going to be used. Through that URL, we are going to be tracking. So this is under Hadoop file system. By using a port number, we are going to be called that particular job details.jsp file. So that is means it is a Java server page. We are going to be find the data from the page. So here, why we are writing like this means Java server page. All those, for example, we are always getting the data not only from a local system. We are going to be get it from the server system also. So how we are going to be access a server? So definitely we are going to be use some URL to access the server. So that is it. So if it is not giving, how to kill the command? So if the data is not presented or any mistake is there, we need to give like a exception handling. No? So like kill command we are going to be used to kill. Then If it is there, then it is going to be tracked. Stage one, if it is a map reduce operation, and stage one, what is that? In stage one, again, see that here the time is changing now. So 25/9/2012, 25/9/2012 in a 17, and here with 3 seconds gap, we have another map certain and reduced to 0. Another 122 minus 16. So this here, for example, here another 2 seconds it will give. So stage one maps are 100 and reduced to 100. So ended the job and job executed. That is okay. With the time it is going to be total time is taken is 14.018 seconds it has taken. Okay. So how we are going to be calculated? So through that file, how we are going to be from the user list. So how we are going to be take data. So the temporary keyword is highlights the facts of that UDF is only defined the duration of 5 sessions. They are permitted in the particular period of session. So user defined aggregation functions, aggregate function. No? So what is this aggregate function? So UDAF works on multiple. We know that it works on multiple rows and it shows in a single row output. So it multiple rows and creates a single row output. An aggregate function includes such as count and max. So the new UDF classes need to inherit it from the same Apache class only. So that is a predefined package, and it contains one or more nested static classes implementing some. So that UDAF to that UDAF UDAF to UDAF, that is same. We are going to be used a last evaluator. UDAF evaluator we are going to use from the implementation of package to our package. So how it will be the program. So an evaluator must be implemented of 5 methods. So we already know that how int a method which resets the status is aggregation function. Then another one is about iterate. The iterate method is called every time there is a new value to be aggregated. The evaluator should be updated internal stages and result of performing value. The evaluator should be updated internal stages and the result of performance of the performing the aggregation. So the arguments that iterate takes the correspondent to the hive function that which is called. So that is previously we talked about when the what is the way we are declaring the parameters. The same way we have to invoke when the function is going to be called. Then another one is about terminate partial. So the terminate partial method should be called when the hive wants to be a subject. Hello. 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 Okay. So the method is called when hive wants to result the partial aggregation. That should be method returns an object that encapsulates the state of aggregation. So when we want to terminate in between any, so for example, here we are going to be dealing with a large number of data. We don't know how many rows and columns are there. When we have a function we called, so up to what we are going to be called. So in some partial termination, maybe we need some 100 rows. For example, still it is counting in between we want to terminate. So we can use a terminate partial aggregation. We can use the function. Next, another one is about merge function. So the merge method is called when the hive I've decided to combine one partial aggregation with another one. One partial aggregation with another one. One partial aggregation with another one. So the method takes in a single object whose type must be correspondent to the return type, return type of the terminate partial method. This method should be implement the logic to combine the evaluator state of the partial aggregation. So the previous partial aggregation method, how we are going to do it. So up to some rows it has calculated. Up to some rows it has calculated, and finally it shows us one row of output. So in between what methods we can calculate what are the corresponding return values it is there. So even if we are terminating partially, so there is a result should be must be shown on there. So that result, how we need to combine. For example, if you terminate another time, if the two terminates there, again we need to combine the both results. So terminate one and terminate two, how to combine. So these partial aggregations. So that means partial terminates will occurs. That the partial terminates again how we are going to be doing a partial aggregation. So that is adding. That is simple method how to add two or different types of terminations when we done. The two terminations how we are going to be adding. So user defined aggregation terminates. So another one is about terminate. So first one is about int, another one is about iterate, third one is about uh, partial terminate, and another one is merge. Next one is about terminate. The terminate method is called when the final result of the aggregation is needed. The final result of the aggregation is needed. The total, if number of maybe a partial terminations are there. So by using again the merge function, we are going to be find out the all other all other partial termination we are going to be merge and combine. So the total terminate is going to be this terminate will use the method which called the final result of the aggregation, which is so this is the data flow with partial result for any UDF. So we have taken file 1, so we have 3, and file 2 we have 4 and 2. So we have a int, iterate 1 and iterate 2, iterate 3, terminate partial. So then we have here int, iterate 4 and iterate 5 and terminate result. So these results we are going to be partial result and these partial result, and we are going to be mix it here. So merge 3 and merge 4. So how we are going to be. So these total we are going to be merged, then we are going to be terminate and it shows the final. So how many in between partial terminates, terminate partial, here also terminate partial. So these terminate partial, how we are going to be merged it. So then we are going to be a final result. So we need to perform an int operation, then iterate operation, then partial terminate. So the terminate partial, then we have a merge operation. So finally we are going to be shows as a terminate. That terminates will use the total result of the final result of that particular table. So this is the aggregation function how we are going to be using UDAF. So we already said that there is a three types of user defined function. First one is UDF. So there is operations we can perform on one particular row, and we are going to be result on that particular row itself. And the second one UDAF. So we have a multiple rows of input and we have a final one row of output. So that row is nothing but aggregation, and we are going to use some count and we can perform. So there is a simple Java code how to do the aggregation. So I think you know this state m sum equal to plus z is equal to, that is a meaning we are going to be added and final result is showing here. So when up to null symbol is the null data, up to that it is going to be added. This is the assignment operator if you remember. So state dot sum m sum is equal to state dot m sum plus the o dot m sum. So that is the object we were created for this UDF aggregate. So this is the one object we have created. So the state dot m sum is another state is the another object. We are going to be called this and how we are going to be counted. Then finally it will show. So again we are going to be use some ternary operator to exit this the double terminate or triple terminate, how many terminates we can have that we are going to be doing. So for example, the sample table how it is showing in EDF below. So this is the table we are going to be loaded. For example, see that 10.12 and 11 have some double data we have included. So here see that create a table demo. So value table double value here. The row format terminated by using slash. So location. So we have some that file was in user and SB and UDF example. The file name and is taken. The row is terminated by a comma. So delimiter row formatted terminated by using a slash and how it is terminated. Differentiate from one row to another row. So we have how many rows are there, how we are going to do. So the table file which contains the number of types of doubles, which contains the table using this Hive DLL query. So the table which we have various types of data, then how we are going to be use the data to call in this. This is the query, EDL query we are going to use. So we are going to be load it. So the demo, UDF demo, then copying from the home file demo. We already said that the file was in home SB demo. Then copying to some home SB4 demo and loading the data. So how much time it's taken. So it is loading to UDF demo, it was loaded. Then we are selecting star from UDF demo. If we simply we can view, so total data, what is the data in that, how much time it's taken to execute that particular query. So 7.8131 seconds is taken to execute this particular query. The data shown and it is. So every data is going to be terminated by slash n. So the rows are going to be terminated by slash. If I give slash comma, then it is going to be comma values it shows. So it is a user defined how to make a classes for all these jar files. So we can how to. Then another last one is about user defined table generating functions. So that is a TF, UDAF, UDTF, user defined table generated function. The new UDTF classes need to extend from, so then we can generally we have org.apache.hadoop.hive.ul.udf we are going to be called. exe some UDF. No? The second one, some exe some UDF here. Here, ql.udf.generic generic UDTF class we are going to use. There is no plan for TF classes. So we need to implement these three methods. One is initialize, process, and close. To emit output, we can call the forward method to shows as an output. So how we are going to do. So the first one is the initial method, initialize method. This method is used to call exactly one per instance. In addition to perform any custom initialization logic if you may need it. So it is responsible for verifying the input types and specifying the output types. So what is the types of input? Initialize. So Hive uses a custom object inspector for both objects for more types. For invoking the tokens, if you want a single string as the input, so we will check that that the input object inspector array contains a single primitive object inspector of a string category. So how we are going to be taking a category strings and anything. So that anything is wrong, we throw an UDF argument exception. So already told it's like a previous one I told, no, it's still command we are going to use. So why we are using it? In between any the data is not read from the particular web server, then it is automatically kills. So like here we are going to be use some UDF argument exceptions such as table errors also, suitable error message also it will shows that So how it is going to be the process method. First one is the initialize method. The second one is about process method. This method is where the heavy lifting occurs. This method is gets called for each row of input. Calls each row of input. Then another last one is about the close method. The close method which is used for this method allows to do any post processing cleanup. So if you want to do any post processing later, once we shown as a result, then later what the cleaning process we need, all this unwanted data we are showing on that particular table. So there is a table generating function. So a final table, what is the unwanted data if it is presented, that data we need to clean up before the closing this method. So this is a simple UDTF Java program. You don't write this one. I'm showing for, you don't need to write in an exam, but I'm showing for if is the program is there, how it will be, how we want to write for UDF and UDF and UDTF. So the first one is a row itself we are going to write, and the second one how we are going to be taking as a column, and it shows an aggregation functions how it will be shows. And the last one, how we are going to make it as a table related things, how we are going to mention all those things. So after this, we were most of things we were covered. As of our syllabus, it will shows what is. I will open and I will tell you. By that we can also remember that. So sixth unit. I think my screen is visible to everyone. So applying the structure with the Hadoop, the first one is the say hi to say hello to Hive, and seeing how the Hive is put together, and getting started with the Hive, how we are going to be started. And there we can write how working things, the architecture, how we can write it. Then examining the Hive clients. So how, what are the various types of Hive clients are there, how we are going to be dealing with them. Then working with the Hive data types. So thin int, big int, double data, and the complex data, so primitive data types and various complex data types. Generating and managing the database and its tables, how we are going to generate. Seeing the Hive data in a manipulation language for and querying analysis. So the querying and analysis purpose only is the last two is the creating, managing database tables and seeing how the Hive data is managed. Language works and querying and analysis in data. For that only, I mentioned all the queries how we are going to be use it and how we are going to be processed in general, and UDF functions how we are going to use and how to process all these things. So this was maximum completed. So from the next class onwards, we will see in each and every unit what are the important questions. So for that important question, what we have to write. So I will prepare for unit wise important question, and if you want to write what we have to write in the exam, that we will discuss each and every unit. I think I hope you received a timetable maybe from 18th January. You have a class work, I think so. Have you received a thing? Can anyone